Hello, and welcome back to Lang with me. I think one of my mission statements for this YouTube channel is to enable people to learn languages on their own because with the information boom that has happened on the internet, I feel that resources and native speakers are now much more accessible than ever because they're simply a click away or a search away, and you can follow native speakers on social media, you can talk to them in voice rooms, but there are still two problems that I feel newcomers face, at least I know I did, and that's number one, finding the correct resources related to the language you're learning, and second is once you do, how are you supposed to use them? And in my 4 years of watching language learning YouTube videos, I found a lot of gems and I'm grateful to all of them. But I have seen a trend in which people talk about their language learning style, and while it's applicative to some, it's not universal, and you can't expect it to be. So that's what I'm going to talk about today: is how to find your language learning style. Because this in this vast sea of resources, I want to help you find your pearls of wisdom. But yes, okay, before starting off, I'd like to preface this with two things. Number one, why do you need your language learning style? It's because of two reasons. Everyone has diverse interests, and everyone also has diverse ways of connecting the dots and understanding things. So your context will allow different things to click with that context, and you will be able to have a better long-term understanding of the language and actually apply it to what you're learning, right? So, and having a deep interest in the method that you're using really allows you to kind of be there for the long haul. So that's number one. And number two is that a lot of the advice out there is definitely worth a try, and finding your language learning style comes through a lot of trial and error. But what I want to do today is kind of help you streamline that search, and before you try something out, maybe see what checkboxes I'm going to be taking you through and optimize it for yourself so that you don't waste a lot of time just trying out different things and just get to language learning immediately. Okay, so how we're gonna do this is I have 6 categories that I've noticed are similar across majority of the language learning methods or styles that I've come across, and I think is relevant for long-term retention of the language and for you to actually engage with the language and with the native speakers if that's one of your goals, right? So we're gonna go through them one by one, and then I'm gonna take 6 examples of resources, and we're gonna see how many of the boxes it checks, and that's maybe a way that you can use to check whether you should incorporate a resource into your study routine and build your style and method accordingly. Okay, number one, is it enjoyable? I think that's the most important question to ask yourself, because if it's enjoyable, not only will it be stimulating and entertaining enough to kind of stick in your brain for longer time, but it'll allow you to spend more time on that resource, and also for you to kind of show up every day, because language learning, in my opinion, is not a one time thing. You gotta be a bit disciplined about it. So I think your chances of sticking with that resource and learning from it increases. That's number one. Number two, how much time can you spend on it at one go? So, for me personally, I think 30 minutes or 60 minutes of deep focus has really helped per day, and it's a good enough time to kind of absorb the material and also not have information overload. So, that's number two. Number three, um, consistency, what we talked about. Can you perhaps show up every day for 15 to 30 minutes, or can you say perhaps do 30 to 60 minutes deep dives every week, right? Number four, can you level up? Now, this is also important because the more you use that resource and the more opportunity there is to level up, you will have both the confidence and the motivation to keep doing better, because you can see your growth and you will be able to test yourself and assess yourself as to where you are. And an example of this could be the JLPT textbooks that we have, or in Japanese, the JLPT wise kanji division that we have. So I know that I did the N5 kanji, and now I can level up to N4 kanji, and so on and so on. So that's also good for, you know, goal setting. And number 5, we have how similar or applicative it is to your final goal. The reason I've put that here is because we're all learning languages for a particular reason, right? Whether it be to speak to natives or be able to read in a particular language. So all your resources therefore should be directed towards or related to your final goal, because only then will you be able to reach it. So for example, if you want to be able to read, then for example in Japanese, then your kanji knowledge comes quite important, and so you pick your resource accordingly. And the last one, which is it immersive? And I know I have said this so many times that textbooks are out and immersion is in, but this is just at the core of language learning, because only when you expose yourself to multiple types and a large amount of input, you'll be able to generate that output, and you'll be able to understand the culture of where that language is coming from, allowing yourself to assimilate even quicker and better, and really get the nuances of what they're actually saying. Okay, now that we've covered all the types, I'm gonna move on to the examples. Okay, we have Duolingo, we have your regular textbooks, we have Anki, we have Netflix, voice rooms, and finally we have literature. Fair warning, I'm a Duolingo hater because I think it's just a tool for mindless engagement in the type of language learning. But hey, that's just me. And why don't you come after me, Duolingo? I'll take you on. But yes, anyway. So, Duolingo, is it enjoyable? I would say yes, because it is engaging after all. How much time can you spend at one go? I think just 10-15 minutes, but not intensive. Can you be consistent? Yes, you can. Because of its daily rewards. Can you level up? Yes, you can. But then what does leveling up here particularly mean? So, apart from your daily rewards, is it similar or applicative to your final goals? Now, usually people have the goal of reading in their target language or speaking to natives, or even say consuming content like say, anime and K-dramas. But what Duolingo teaches you are phrases and random grammar points thrown here and there without any particular explanation. So I think in majority of the cases, no, not if you want to think in your target language. And lastly, is it immersive? No, because you're particularly doing quizzes and you're not actually getting to know anything much about the culture. So yeah. Textbooks, are they enjoyable? Yeah, I think they would be to a particular learner. It depends on your taste. So again, all of this is subjective. How much time can you spend at one go? You can definitely do 30 to 60-minute dives. Can you be consistent? Grudgingly, perhaps. Can you level up? Yes, because the HSK guides or the Talk to Me in Korean guides and GLPT guides, they all have levels, so you can definitely level up. How similar or applicative is it to your final goals? Now, this really depends, because if you want to gain an insight into the on ground culture and how younger people speak or maybe casually speak, that's going to be quite different from what's there in the textbook, right? And if you're using an old one especially, you're going to kind of miss out on the linguistic changes that happen so dynamically, considering the advent of social media and lots of new words being invented. So I'm gonna mark this a question mark. Okay, is it immersive? No. What I define by immersion is not a guide to how to learn a language, but rather exposure to your target language's country's culture, and that may be through dramas, YouTube, literature, etc. We'll just come to that. Now coming to Anki, is it enjoyable? I think it is. I think it's fun. How much time can you spend at one go? I tend to spend about 30 minutes. I'm using active recall, so it is a relatively intensive session. Can you be consistent with it? Yes, because you do have to complete your cards every day. Can you level up? Yes, because you do complete the deck as you go and then you use more decks after that. Is it similar or applicative to your final goals? Now, I particularly use it for vocabulary building, and I think in order to reach most of the goals that people have with languages, you do need some basic vocab, whether it's the most used words or the core words, or perhaps specific to your use case. So, I would say pretty much yes. Is it immersive? No. It still does not expose you to the culture that the they have. Now, Netflix. Is it enjoyable? Very much. I will not lie. How much time can you spend at one go? Hours? I know because I have seen the sunrise while binge watching. Can you be consistent with it? That depends. Perhaps if you watch half an hour every day, can you level up? This really depends on what type of content you are watching. Whether it's like, does leveling up do you mean moving on from everyday language dramas to historical dramas, etc. So this is very specific to you. Is it similar or applicative to your final goals? And if it's speaking, not really. If it's learning about the culture or learning to understand the content, yes. So again, question mark. Is it immersive? For sure. Now, it does tick most of the boxes, but what depends is how you particularly use it, and if you're intentionally studying through Netflix and YouTube rather than just passively watching it. That's it. Voice rooms. Are they enjoyable? Yes, because you get to talk to a lot of different kind of people. How much time can you spend at one go? Depends if you're talkative or if you're extroverted, you can spend much longer, but I think at least 15 minutes can be doable. So you can spend some time. Can you be consistent with it? It depends on your routine, but it is quite possible. Can you level up? I personally don't think so. It depends on the voice rooms that you enter and the type of that you talk to, but that leveling up would happen in the sense of the topics that you speak about, and that would require a lot of background effort. So, question mark: is it similar or applicative to your final goals? If it is speaking, then definitely yes. But if it's reading, writing, not so much. So, question mark again. Is it immersive? For sure, because you're talking to the native speakers, you're talking to people who are learning the same language, you get to know about their culture and they get to know about yours. So, finally, literature. Now, is it enjoyable? I'd keep a question mark because I do enjoy it, but there are some people who don't enjoy reading. So, um, subjective again. How much time can you spend at one go? This is interesting because I think, as someone said, reading in a separate or a target language is kind of like muscle building, and you gotta employ the right weights at the right time. And what we mean by that is use the right difficulty level of the passage or the book at the right time. For example, if I do not have the mental energy, I'd probably read a manga in Japanese. And if I am looking for intensive reading, then I'd pick up a novel. And while you're doing that, you do have to do extensive reading, which is like read a lot of books at the same time. So I do think you can spend 15 to 30 minutes at least there. Can you be consistent with it? Yes, if you can show up, I think, pretty much every day, but again, the content would differ depending on the weightlifting you're trying to do, right? Can you level up? Yes, but again, the difficulty in that is kind of trying to find the resources and which um, levels each resource can be assigned to. And if you're looking for that in literature, that sorting has to be done by yourself usually, unless there are like storybooks for children, etc., available. So yes, you can, but you're gonna have to figure it out on your own. Is it similar or applicative to your final goals? If you want to speak, then no. But if you want to read and maybe write, then definitely yes. So I'm gonna leave a question mark there. As you can see, most of these are either question marks or ticks or crosses. So that's because your final goals are also subjective, right? Is it immersive? Yes. I would still say it's immersive because it does expose you to that country's culture and you kind of get an idea of what they're thinking, what topics they're interested in, and you might find commonalities in terms of your topics of interest because enjoyable. Okay, we've reached towards the end, and here are the final two tips that I have for you. As you can see, none of these have all ticks across because I don't think you can find one resource that covers all of these categories together. And even if you do, they would be tackling different areas in one application or in one place. So that brings me to my first tip, which is you need to use a combination of resources in order to get to your requirements. And that also depends on what your requirements are. But for example, I don't enjoy textbooks that much, but I enjoy Anki, and Anki ticks most of the boxes except immersion. So I make up for that through Netflix and other content so that I have all of these six in my study routine. And the second tip is that limit yourself to 2 to 4 resources, I would say, to avoid information overload and decision fatigue, so that every day you don't have to wake up and decide, oh, which resources do I do today and what do I do in each of them, so that you have something set. And when it's a busy day, you can simply just go to your application or your basic target for the day and achieve your goals. So, yes, I think that's pretty much it. Everyone is unique, everyone has unique ways of learning, and I hope this video kind of helped you streamline your journey and discover what perspective um, you can apply while filtering through all the resources that are available online to find your perfect fit for language learning. So, yeah, do let me know in the comments below what language resources you're using, or maybe whether there's another category that you think is relevant in terms of finding your language learning style. Thank you. Bye.